welcome back. So I'm in my jammies. I'm all comfy. It's a rainy night here, so I'm just very cozy. I had some tea already, and I'm settling in. I wanted to show you 6 ways that you could sit for a yoga class. I have a lot of students that come into class and they're a little bit confused. They don't really know how to sit because we're not used to sitting on the floor, right? And when we come to yoga, that's what ends up happening. So, number 1, okay? Very traditional, you're gonna see this a lot in yoga classes. Very simple, crisscross applesauce. So here's my secret for this posture. People say to me, how do you get your knees so low when you're sitting there? So my ankles, if you put one ankle in front of the other, sometimes that will help getting the knees a little bit lower. Okay, that's a little tip, a little secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. If you have knee sensitivity, you can prop that knee up, one or both, with your blanket. So you can see I have a few different props here that we're going to go through. So blanket under the knee is an option, okay? A lot of the time when you go into a yoga class, a teacher will say change your ankles, bring the opposite one in front. And that's just to break a habit in your body, because when you sit down, we're so used to sitting in a certain way with the ankles, and that might be forming a pattern in the body that's causing dis-ease, and we don't even realize it's happening. So if you practice switching the ankles, it might help to break that pattern. It's pretty cool. Okay, so this is one way to sit. Now there's different ways that you can help yourself sit in this posture. If this is a lot of effort for your body to sit like this, you can use your blanket. So if you have a blanket, fold it up like so, okay? Sit on the front edge of this blanket. I'm gonna turn sideways so you can see this. So if I sit on the front edge of this blanket, right, I'm not to the back of it, I'm at the front edge of it where I'm kind of hanging off the front. It's gonna help tilt my pelvis forward and down. So I don't know if you can see that, but try it out. Get your blanket, sit on the front edge of it. And now, if you're still feeling like you're rounded in your back, you can take the same blanket, fold it up a little bit higher, right? So the higher your hips go, the easier this is gonna be for your body, especially if you're feeling tight in your hips. So you can fold your blanket up higher. And again, sit on the front edge of it. It's a really beautiful feeling. It really just draws the pelvis forward and down and creates a nice ease on that lower back area. It's really, really comfortable. Now, you can also use a block and sit on that. So I'm going to show you that. Boop. All right, this is just one way that you can sit in yoga. The blocks, not to sound silly, but they're very blocky. So if it feels too blocky, you can use your blanket, right? Just make sure you're sitting on the front edge of it. Your knees want to go lower than your hips, okay? So knees lower than hips. That's going to be really, really key and helpful for your seated posture to feel easier, okay? Another way, right, we're just in Propville right now, is to sit on the edge of your bolster. You have a bolster, you can take that and slide it again so that you're sitting on the front edge of it. It's very comfortable. I would have to even say, I'll go as far as saying delicious, yummy, okay? Now, all of these things, these props that we just introduced, block, blanket, bolster, can also help us sit against a wall, okay? So here we go, number 2. Sitting against a wall. So with or without your props, okay? Right up against the wall, crisscrossed. These are all really good tools for you to use if you're starting out in yoga and your back muscles don't feel that strong just yet, because you can use the wall. I wouldn't lean completely onto it, but rather train yourself to lift off of it, okay? So if you're feeling tired, you can always come back to the wall and just have a little moment to relax and let go. You can even drop your head onto the wall and just relax completely. Feels really good, right? or just trained to come off the wall. Same thing as we said with the blocks, the blanket, and the bolster. You can sit on those using the wall still, but train yourself to be on the front edge of that, right? So again, you're tilting the pelvis forward and down. We want to get out of that rounding of the spine, okay? Now in these two positions that I just showed you, using the wall and not using the wall, you can sit crisscross with your ankles. You can also lengthen your legs out in front of you. Pretty simple, right? If you have knee issues, you can sit with your legs extended. Maybe you have two blankets or a bolster you're sitting on and a blanket underneath your knees. So I'm going to take my blanket, just roll it up and put it underneath my knees to help my knees feel a little bit less stressed. And again, I'm sitting. If I'm feeling pretty tight in my legs, I'm probably feeling pretty tight in my back and my hips. So I'm either sitting against the wall for support here, or I'm using something underneath my pelvis to help lift me up higher, to help tilt the pelvis forward and down. Got it? Okay. So those are a couple of different ways that you can sit. Here's another way. You're going to take your blanket and you're going to fold it up. A lot of times when you go to a yoga class, you'll have blankets folded in a specific way, a particular way. Just take that blanket and you're going to sit, if you feel comfortable with this, with your blanket on top of your heels and then back onto that with your bottom, with your hips. If you have tight quads, I highly recommend that you sit like this to begin your yoga class anyway. And you'll know if you have tight quads because when you sit like this, you might have a, oh my God, that kind of reaction, like, ooh, you know, you really feel it. Now, some people have sensitive ankles in this posture, okay? So guess what? We have an option for that too. So you can take your blanket, and again, maybe you have two blankets for this, and you roll it up just a little bit. Now here's the blessing with having all these props. I mean, we can go a little prop crazy, so we have to be a little bit careful with that, okay? But, because you don't want to be like surrounded by a world of props, you know what I'm saying? So take your blanket if you have sensitive ankles and rest the tops of your feet on that folded up blanket. So sometimes when a student says to me, oh, my ankles hurt, and then I give them this option, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so much better. It's like night and day. It's just like amazing, right? This information, it's like golden information. It's beautiful. So now you have it too. So if you're in this posture and all you have is a block and a blanket and you still want something to sit on, you can then put that block between the feet here that are soft and comfy on that blanket for your ankles and sit with the block in between the ankles. It's really nice. And maybe you'll still feel a stretch in the quads, which is great, really great. Okay, so those are a few different options for you. Now, another way that you can sit like this, hi Maisie, is building yourself a bench. So for that, we're using 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So these blocks, and I'm going to turn around so you can see this from behind so you see what I'm doing. Because my legs are going to go through these spaces right here. It's going to be so much fun, okay? So you can take your blanket now, and you're going to create the seat for your bench. Okay, so we're going to fold it up in half, and then from this size blanket, you're going to do a tri-fold. So in thirds. So now we have quite a nice blanket, okay? Nice and thick seat. And we put that on top. You want it to be a good spread for the bottom. You might even want to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to take mine and fold it in half. I lied to you. So I'm not putting mine in a tri-fold. I'm just going to fold it in half like a skinny long bench, okay? So I'm gonna show you this from this side, and then I'm gonna turn around and show you from that side. So I'm just gonna take my feet, and I'm gonna slide them through these little holes between my blocks, and then I'm gonna sit my bottom down onto that middle block. And what happens is the blanket spreads out and helps to support me, okay? But I have space for my lower leg to fit through there. So if you're looking at this from the front, I have to move my bench back a little bit. Please excuse my falling blocks here. I wanted this to be a quick tutorial for you, but there's just so much to talk about. There's so much to share all the time. There's so much information. You know, and then there's Maisie, she's got a lot to share too. You want just enough space for your ankles to slip through those holes, okay? Excuse me, Maisie, darling. So I'm gonna slide my feet right through the holes there, in between the blocks, making sure my knees are happy too, okay? You can always put a blanket underneath your knees, and then you're gonna sit down onto the block. This is actually really nice, quite comfortable. Okay, so on to the next thing. We're gonna take the blanket and the blocks to the side, and we're gonna grab our chair. Now this is very simple. Some yoga classes don't have chairs available, but if you're practicing yoga at home and you're starting out the class, perhaps a chair is something that feels the most comfortable for you to sit on. I'm looking at my list. So those are 6 different ways that we just went through that you can start a yoga class. When you're sitting on a chair like this, you might want to train your body to sit on the front edge of the seat. So that again, you're using your back muscles and you're tilting the pelvis, teaching the pelvis to tilt forward and down, rather than rounding the back and slumping into your chair, okay? So we wanna use the muscles and train the body to use the muscles. When would you use a chair like this for the start of your yoga class? Maybe if you have knee issues and you can't quite get down to the floor, or it's difficult to get down to the floor because you have knee issues or hip issues, okay? I hope you got some information from this little tutorial today, these tips for how to sit in a yoga class. If you have any questions, let us know. Join us on Be Truly You. We have longer videos on there, which you're gonna love so much, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you for being a part of this community. Hope you have a great namaste.